Hi everyone, thanks for joining us here at the 776 Villa during Cannes Lions 2026. We're back for another intimate roundtable marketing conversation. Today we are going to be focused on talking about how creator marketing is evolving into a true strategic growth driver, from the capabilities that brands need to build to the role that AI is going to play in, honestly, what's next in the creator marketing space. I'm Brandon Fox. I lead client services at Pearpop, and I'm joined today by a fantastic mix of marketers with really diverse and rich perspectives. So before we jump into things, would love to do a quick round robin of introductions. So if everyone can share your name, where you're coming from, what you do, that'd be awesome. Let me start with you.
Sure. I'm Stacey Malone. I'm VP of Business Marketing at Pinterest. And so what I do is basically market to marketers, which can be a tough job. They can be a cynical group.
They're an annoying group.
Alexis Ohanian, formerly co-founder of Reddit, but these days here building 776 and obsessed with a lot of stuff, especially women's sports these days, and on my way back to London tonight for something very related.
I need more. It's really cool to see you today for that. I'm Melissa Hobley. I'm the global CMO at Tinder. We're the biggest dating app in the world, 2 million dates a week, 3 billion swipes a day. And the best part of my job is understanding how do I help you find your person, and how do I understand culturally what makes that easy or hard in Tokyo, in Detroit, in Muncie, Indiana, where I'm from, in Paris, in Rio, and how do I think about that for communities in particular that should have more support, like queer communities, like communities of color. And I'm excited for the discussion. I'm also excited for your classic Reeboks. I see you.
I have some nicer shoes, but the first time wearing them, mistake for all the walking I'm doing. Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone being here today. Just quick run of show. I've got like 5 or 6 questions, but love for these conversations to be really informal, conversational. So feel free to just jump in, build on whatever everyone's saying. No need to get through everything. So here we go. I guess to start us off, I will lead with creator marketing has obviously come a very long way over the last few years. What do each of you think will separate the brands that truly lead in this space from those that are simply participating?
I'm happy to jump in. I think one of the things that is going to separate the brands that do this really well from others is longer term relationships, one. So I think these one-offs are not the right way to drive whatever results you're trying to drive. It could be awareness, it could be downloading your app. I think it's these longer term partnerships, because now when you see a creator post or an influencer post, like the comment is, girl, go get your bag, which is how Gen Z is like, we know this is paid, but like we love that for you. And so these longer term partnerships of, I'm posting about, this is how we think about this at Tinder, partnering with folks out there, but it's 6 months or a year. And also dating, it's not like, it's a phase you're going to come in and out of. The second thing that I think is going to separate the brands who are crushing it from the folks where everyone's doing it is actually arming those creators with intel on your business. So what we'll do at Tinder is we'll say, hey, listen, we're the biggest app in the world, but in this part of the world, in the US, we have a lot of social anxiety and people feel really vulnerable. It's a really hard time. We don't have the language to say, hey, Brandon, are you an Aries? Like, what's your story? Let's vibe. They don't have the muscle. And so when we work with creators, we are now looking for people that say, tell me what matters to you. What are you trying to do? Are you changing perception of Tinder? Are you trying to make people feel a little bit better in their own skin about who they are? And how did that work? Was it views, shares, comments, likes? Was it downloads? Was it, I figured out how that shifted your perception about dating a little bit. And the creators are up for it. These are really smart, creative folks. And when you tell them, here's my businesses and here's what I want to get out of this partnership, they'll then be like, okay, how did it do? What can we know? How do we shift this? How do we think about something differently?
It's interesting. I would say, I love your push on the longer, but I would take it to a different level, which is deeper relationships.
Yeah.
Because I think when it gets really interesting between a brand and a creator is when you can do things like help with product creation. And when we did some of our product inclusivity products, like hair pattern, for example, we pulled in experts, creators that were experts in that space to help us like co-create product. And that was like, took it to the next level because it was very geared towards a specific community. The other thing I am very bullish on is authenticity. I know it's an overused term, but it's so true. We always talk about we want content with personality, not necessarily just personalities with content. And so how can you actually add value versus just feel like you're kind of selling your stuff? So, how can you actually add value with the content you're bringing? So.
Anything to add?
I don't know how much more I can add. Like, I think I will say the interesting trend I have seen with the rise of AI is you're kind of living. We do all our investing through this like barbell approach of, we are funding and trying to build a lot of the companies doing the sort of infrastructure of the future, from energy to data centers in space, like all that stuff, and all the things on the totally opposite side of that barbell, which are the fundamentally human things that should be even more valuable in this new era. And so in a world where content is now effortless to produce, it wasn't hard to take a photo and knock out a caption, but now it has become a million times easier to produce really high fidelity content, and a lot of it's referred to, and I think rightly so, as AI slop. And in a world where there's more and more fake stuff, I think the creators who transcend, the creators who have a real connection, you might call it a cult, you might call it a deep community, but when they have a real connection, I think if you think the average consumer is just going to be bombarded with more and more noise and sort of saccharine, sort of dopamine hits of AI generated stuff, they're going to seek out the real voices. And I think as much as we've seen the creator economy grow in the last decade, I actually think this new world that we're moving into with AI, it will grow even more because we will seek out those voices of connection. And there'll also probably be some really fun stuff that happens between IRL and offline, or excuse me, IRL and online, that I think you all have already done some really interesting collaborations on in different ways that bring people away from the screens, or made some product decisions that are really interesting, like that I think will endure very well.
I think just in culture, what we're seeing is there's a push against technology, particularly in Gen Z.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They grew up with this technology, and yet they're seeking things outside, things like that don't have anything to do with the screen. We see searches going crazy on Pinterest for things that are replacing screen time, spending time outside, spending time doing things in the real world. And so it's weird that there's this, especially with the young people, a push against the technology that they were raised on.
It's true. Our biggest push at Tinder in probably 5 years is IRL, and they're saying we want to put the phones down and get in person. And so how do you make that easier? And is it the dog park? Is it a run club? Whatever it is. And the harder part is scaling that at Tinder. But the push against technology. Did you guys get landlines? I think we're all parents here. We got a landline, and I remember the first time it was my 6-year-old and my 9-year-old. I'm like, they're like, what is this antique? Like, what is happening? What's the cord? But isn't it fascinating to see that push, but to also be thinking about how to help get this generation in person?
40% of Gen Z wish that social media was never created.
Yeah, that's real.
That's wild.
That's profound, right?
Love our jobs. Next question. How do we all see creator marketing evolving within the broader marketing mix over the next, call it, 2 to 4 years? Anything stick out to you as like a prediction?
I'll tell you one part that gets me fired up. I do think and I'll try to defang AI, but like we now have the ability to process lots of data fairly efficiently in a way that we couldn't before, and find patterns we couldn't before. And I've heard for a decade marketers very rightly say, like, we need more accountability, we need more better understanding of the effect of this thing. And I do think still the brand marketing side of it's valuable as ever, but I do think we will have the ability, and we'll continue to, like the 2 years from now, 4 years from now, we will far better understand the value and what these campaigns did than we do today, simply because we are able to process and compute so many more data points to be able to see patterns and trends. And so I think the the sort of unsexy analytics side of it is going to get a lot better over the next few years.
Do you think that'll show that it's working better than we think it is?
For sure.
It will shift even more towards.
I am certain it is undervalued. I mean, not just because I am obviously an investor in Pearpop, but 6 years ago, I mean, disclosure, everyone knows this. But 6 years ago, I seeded a guy named Jimmy Donaldson, also known as Mr. Beast. And the entire thesis was, and he was probably top 100 YouTuber back then. He was successful, but definitely not like the biggest YouTuber in the world like he is today. The thesis was very simple. Like the way that his fan base had grown up with him, and how the sort of meta of like clocking the wins of your favorite creator, that is so powerful, because when your community is genuinely rooting for you to do well and wants to see your star shine and make more money and grow and see it as their success, you have something even bigger. With Reddit, we would build communities, but these are like tribes. These are almost like cults, but in an exciting way. There's a level to the connection. It's different from traditional fame, and it's so much deeper. And as long as those creators are standing 10 toes down on the partnerships, ideally longer term partnerships, all these you're talking about, I think their audience truly is listening to that, is saying like, yes, I want that too. And I still think those sort of power, those apex creators all the way down, they don't have to be, the Mr. Beast or the Quinn Blackwells that we were talking about earlier that have massive audiences. They can be the ones that, again, speak to a community really authentically. And I mean, I've got my barbecue influencers. I've got creators who taught me how to smoke brisket. And literally, like the guys at Me Church, shout out Me Church, like if they recommend a thing, I'm going to try it. If they're selling me spices and seasoning, I'm going to buy it. And so they will never be, no offense guys, they'll never be as big as Mr. Beast. But they don't need to be, because they have an audience that deeply, deeply believes in everything that they're saying. And again, in a world of noise, and ironically, because so many of these, ChatGPT, these other LLMs are trained on, places like Reddit, but places that now have been gamed in the same way SEO was getting gamed. I've been pitched by founders doing direct-to-consumer companies that have told me they've bought subreddits, and I'm like, you can't do that. And they're like, no. Let's say we're building a barbecue brand, we go find the r/barbecue community, which is the best community, and that's what's training every query about barbecue. And we go and DM the moderators and say, hey, Fluffy Turtle 62, like, can I give you $10,000 for your user account? And Fluffy Turtle 62 is like, sure, I'll just make Fluffy Turtle 63. I'll take that $10,000. And so they buy the mod accounts. Once you've bought all the moderator accounts, you can now start seeding content that very quietly in posts is like, oh yeah, my favorite seasoning is blah, blah, blah. And oh, I couldn't have done it without this Traeger grill or whatever. And so very quickly, GEO, what should have been the enlightened version of SEO has become this very, pretty deceptive cash grab and land grab. And eventually consumers are going to start realizing, well, okay, if my results here or that are sort of poisoned in this way, who do I trust? And again, it comes back to, well, the Me Church guys have been doing this for years. They taught me how to cook. I feel like I've watched their star rise, and I feel like I'm on the team. So I'm going to trust them. And I do think it'll be very, very
It reminds me of the early days of search where there was black hats, SEO,
Yes,
and then white hat. And now I
Exactly
feel like
right.
we're still in that where it's like, what is accepted practice? And people are going to game it while they can. It's fascinating.
Y'all have something interesting with Pinterest because it is personal, like in the sense of, like, if I'm going to pin something, I'm doing it for me. And so there is this extra layer of authenticity because it's not performative. That I think long run becomes more valuable, because you have to think about it from like the side of how do people manipulate. And when you have a platform where the intent and everything is built around a personal thing, it becomes a much, much harder thing to actually do.
Yeah. It's funny because it's totally why we're having a moment with Gen Z. I mean, half the people coming to Pinterest are Gen Z, which is crazy given how long Pinterest has been around. And it's because it's not performative. It is that private, safe space. And they feel like they can actually be themselves.
Alexis has touched on AI a couple times. Curious, Stacey and Melissa. No, it's great.
Great. I could
it's fascinating
for the next 2 hours.
Obviously, AI is becoming part of every marketing conversation, but where are you guys seeing it create the most value today within your companies, if you're able to share?
It's such a big conversation.
In 20 seconds or less.
I don't want to hear my. I want to hear what you think, because you're close to it, and as an investor and a backer, but also someone who creates something. I actually want to learn from you. Where do you see AI bringing like some of the most value in this space, or like how are you guys doing that at Pearpop?
I think, for me, it's at the bare minimum a way to understand signal that we haven't been able to before. So, like, okay, what's a good example? Okay, a world-class content team, if they're really like the sort of Navy SEALs of real-time content, I would task them, if I was running a brand or whatever, I'd be like, okay, we obviously need you to be chronically online, and you're gonna know the right, social media accounts, all the right things to be following so you're in your zeitgeist and you can know what's happening in real time. And for years, that was a very laborious, as someone who's chronically online, like that's a very laborious human job. And there was no way to supplement the human doing that thing. Today, and there's a variety of ways to do this, computers can now basically watch a video and understand the context. And even if a brand like Tinder is not named or is not like tagged in the video, in the comments or the text, but is spoken about, we can see that. If you all don't have a product, but if you're like a Starbucks or a Microsoft, if you have a distinctive logo that someone could be holding, we can now see that. And so now the work of that team, that SEAL Team 6 that needs to be reacting in real time and seeing the sort of meta shifts and all that stuff, to do their human judgment, now doesn't have to do all the time doing the things that humans are bad at and don't find joy in, right? No one, doing the sort of data reconnaissance is not the thing that gives us joy as humans, and it's the perfect thing for software and AI to do, to supercharge, to actually let the human do the creative part.
I love that. I'll build on a little bit. I think that's so right. And where things also get interesting for a brand like mine, showing up at the right time. So the sentiment analysis. Dating is so hard, right? It is, and whether you're 18 or 89, and it's hard if you're in the Marais in Paris. It's hard if you're in Austin. It's hard everywhere. Where I think AI is going to get really interesting, whether it's creators or just the full stack of marketing, is around sentiment. I need to talk to you not after the Dateline special. I need to talk to you when you're feeling a little hopeful. I need to talk to you when you've seen that story in your TikTok feed, or you saw something on Pinterest and she proposes to her girlfriend. I need to see when you are having like a potential lean in moment is when you're really going to be open to, because I get it, dating is hard, you're over the apps, get it, but you're also not going out, you're also not going to bars, you're also not doing things where you're going to meet someone that could be your person. And so I think the sentiment part of showing up when that's the right moment is really interesting. I also think as a consumer, it's really annoying when you're like, this is not the time, right? And so I also think it just creates a better environment for how brands are connecting to consumers.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of think of it in different buckets. So there's how AI is impacting our product, what the consumer experience is. We actually just announced at Cannes that we are launching a standalone app called Ask Pinterest. And it's to allow us to iterate and test and about agentic commerce, which is a space that is, consumer behaviors are changing so fast. How do we create a sandbox that we can test in without disrupting our core business and our core app? So we're trying to find ways to test and iterate, and then whatever is kind of wins will like affect the way we build our core app. And then of course with our workflows, I mean, it's totally changed the way we work, right? And it started out like last year at Cannes, it was all about how AI was going to affect creative development. This year, I think it's more about how is it actually making us like faster and smarter just in marketing workflows all up. And to take the work away that you said, the work we don't get joy out of. It's like we all didn't join marketing to look at spreadsheets and assess data. And so how can you like take that stuff off people's plate and let them do the stuff that energizes them more?
If anyone could build a joyful spreadsheet, it's Pinterest.
I will give inside scoop here. Our spreadsheets are not joyful.
I don't believe you.
We're letting you down.
I am gonna look for your new product, and I am going to have Pinterest help me create joyful spreadsheets.
Well, I love that you feel that about us.
Share that with me too. Well, I appreciate the time. We are already at time, surprisingly, but I really love the conversation, and let's keep it going.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
having us.
Thanks for being
Sure,
here.
thank you for coming.
Thanks so much.